I must apologise for keeping you hanging with my life story, but I have had a very eventful week. Maureen and I went to a psychic fair. I wasn't sure about it, to be honest, but Maureen had been given a voucher for Indian head massage, and she didn't want to go on her own, so having ascertained that there would be refreshments provided, I agreed to accompany her on her foray into the afterlife. We arrived at Bridland Village Hall to find the car park full of strange vehicles and people in caftans eating hot dogs and smoking foreign cigarettes. I remember saying to Maureen, "It'll be hell to pay if Ted's expected to pick all those stubs up with his sciatica. He regularly complains to all and sundry that the council won't make reasonable adjustments since he had his hip done, but in my opinion it's only fair that a caretaker should undertake to do a spot of cleaning now and then. As I always say, we pay him to empty the bins, not to take photographs of them with his smartphone and upload them to Facebook with snide comments about underwear packaging and incontinence." Maureen was mortified, and he wasn't even so much as reprimanded. Anyway, I digress. As we walked into the hall, we immediately spotted the queue for Indian head massage, which was full of worried-looking women with lacquered hair, standing clutching their vouchers. Maureen thought she'd better join the queue at once, so I was left on my own to wander round the stalls. One man was taking photographs of people's auras, which I thought was very interesting. When I was a baby, a gypsy stopped my mother to tell her that as she had wheeled my silver cross past her in the street, she had seen a bright blue light shining from inside the pram right up into the sky. Of course, Mother immediately hurried me home to check me, and sure enough, I'd filled my nappy. She used to say that she thought the fumes must have given the gypsy hallucinations. Even back then I had trouble with my bowels, but I've always wondered whether I might be destined for something more than humdrum housewifery. I went up to see how much it would cost to have my aura photographed, and when I found out it was £25, I asked him if he would consider doing a group portrait of Maureen and myself and two friends whom I'd spotted in the corner of the room, but he refused, saying it would muddle our chakras, so I continued to circulate. I must say, I found it all very interesting. It was rather lovely to see the Village Institute full of exotic people rather than half-rotten fruit and vegetables, as is so often the case with our produce show. There were even some new notices on the board, and that doesn't happen very often in Bridland. Evie Perkins is hosting an evening of exotic knots and gags, which I think I might pop along to. My brother Ernest was in the Sea Scouts and always showing off his prowess with a rope, and ever since then I've had a secret yearning to master a fisherman's bend, and the thought of doing so to the accompaniment of one-line jokes quite appeals. There was also a poster which said "Save BHS." Well, that came as a bit of a surprise. First C&A, then Littlewoods, then Woolworths, and now BHS. Well, Maureen and I love their slacks, so we've decided to join a coach going from Upper Tillington to protest about the closure of BHS tomorrow. It's going to Manchester, which must be where the headquarters is. It's gratifying to think that people are so involved in the local community. I shall report back to you in due course. Anyway, I glanced across at the queue for Indian head massage and was somewhat disheartened to see that Maureen had only moved 2 places along. Realising that I needed to fill some more time, I headed for the tea and cakes, and on the way I was accosted by a rather attractive young man with purple hair, wearing a crimson robe and a nose ring. He offered to tell me my future, and seeing that Maureen was still 7th in the queue, and ascertaining that it would only cost £5, I agreed with a slight thrill of terror. I sat down opposite him and he brought out 3 packs of cards, which he instructed me to shuffle. As I did so, he appeared to go into some kind of trance, and swaying slightly in his seat, he told me that I had had a shocking experience in the past, but that it was now behind me. Well, he could only have meant Charlie. So I asked him if he was referring to my gay husband leaving me for the butcher. He nodded emphatically. I see huge chunks of meat dangling in the air, he said, which of course must have meant the back of Bobby's shop. I was most impressed. He asked me of my birthday and then looked something up on his iPad and informed me that according to the placing of the planets in my astrological chart, I was due to receive news from foreign places, and asked if I had any relatives in America. I told him I didn't, at which he looked closer at the screen and said it might possibly indicate a trip to London. Well, as you know, I've just been down there to see a friend. I found this quite amazing. I was curious to know what he could tell me about my future. He asked me to shuffle a pack of cards while he concentrated on my aura. Then he instructed me to pick 3 cards and lay them face up on the table, which I did. His eyes widened. There is definitely someone coming to visit you from foreign shores, he said. He closed his eyes and said he could see a woman with pink hair. I told him I knew nobody of that description, whereupon he asked if I had a cat, which of course I do, and then if I had a dog, and then if I liked animals, and apparently a large dog of indeterminate breed, called either Rover or Scamp, might be trying to communicate to me from the spirit world. He asked me to leave a bowl of water on the kitchen floor for 2 weeks and see if any of it disappeared, which would be apparently an indication of the spirit hound quenching its thirst during the night. Just then, I heard a dreadful scream and looked across to see Maureen in obvious pain and people gathered around her trying to disentangle the masseur's hands from her head. The silly woman was wearing a Celtic ring which had got knotted into Maureen's hair extensions. In the end, scissors were sent for. It was a very sorry episode, and as the voucher was free, Maureen didn't even get a refund. We went back to mine to recover. Our psyches, no doubt, thoroughly jangled after our experience of the morning. There was a letter on the mat with an American stamp. I couldn't believe my eyes. I told Maureen about the fortune teller's words. I must admit, I had a little tingle on the spot. Maureen filled the kettle, whilst I fetched an ice pack for her head, which was bright scarlet in places, and then I read the letter as we sat and drank our tea. It was from a woman called Felicity Boneflew. I think that's how you say it. Baumflough. She explained that she had been researching her family tree, and that we shared a great uncle on her mother's side, which makes it some kind of cousin, I suppose. Anyway, she's planning to visit England and wants to come to see me while she is here. Now I call that spooky. Felicity is sending me a video which I shall share with you when it arrives. I must go to bed now. I need a good night's sleep before the march tomorrow. Maureen is taking sandwiches and I'm in charge of the thermos. Good night all.